So we saw the Universal Studios movie The Invisible Woman from 1940.
Directed by Edward Sutherland, written by Curt Siodmak, stars Virginia Bruce, John Barrymore, John Howard, 1 hour and 12 minutes.
And
Black and white still.
You might think that with the Invisible Man movies that they've had recently, that this was just another horror movie continuing on that, and it wasn't. It was a comedy.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same theme, same idea, the invisible person and all that, but this one is just strictly played for laughs.
Well, she doesn't go on a rampage killing people. And
I was thinking about this after we watched it. I wonder if, because of the way the times were, they would not allow a woman to be in that kind of position of power.
Yeah, maybe.
Megalomania, ruling the world. Oh, that's silly. A woman could never do that.
Yeah, very much. 1940.
I think that had a lot to do with it, yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to have an invisible woman.
Well,
but she
let's
can't
make
kill
it light
people.
and
Let's
funny.
make it a comedy.
We'll have her be a model.
Yeah, it'll be funny.
Because women are models, and that'll be funny. Yeah.
They worry about that women-y kind of things.
And it was kind of funny.
As a comedy, it was fine.
Yeah.
Well, it starts out with George the butler tripping and falling down the stairs.
He does that a lot.
Is there an invisible woman in the room? No, he's just a klutz.
He's a klutz. And there's some slapstickishness. He's definitely a slapstick kind of guy.
Yeah. The door opens and John the lawyer comes in. He says that Playboy Richard is broke, and he forbids Richard from investing any more money on Professor Gibbs, the crazy old inventor who hasn't invented anything useful in 10 years.
But he's working on invisibility.
Gibbs has just asked for $3,000, and John the lawyer tells Richard no, which Richard then forwards on to Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
George runs the message over to Gibbs, saying there won't be any more money. Gibbs then goes on to the newspaper offices and changes the ad he placed for "Wanted, a human being, willing to become invisible, $3,000." He crosses out the $3,000 and runs the ad anyway with no compensation.
Yeah.
Who would want to be invisible for free?
I know.
I wouldn't mind.
She would.
They get piles of letters from people who want to try it. Most of them are jokes and cranks. Gibbs explains that he really can make people invisible. Probably. He made the cat invisible, but it wore off. He gets one legitimate sounding letter, and he calls the person in. Kitty Carroll, a model, hears the call to adventure and wants to become invisible. She's a model and doesn't care for her job anymore.
Yeah, her Mr. Growly, the angry boss, is not a very good person to work for.
Yeah, she wants to get a little bit even with him.
Although
Mr. Growl.
This was definitely a sign of the times, too. It's a department store model. And basically it's this room where it's like a lounge where upper-class, semi-wealthy women sit, and these models come in and model the latest fashions and the latest.
Just a parade of live models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like they must have sat around most of the day waiting for these targets to come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they probably have a scheduled thing, like every Thursday.
Fashion show.
The fashion viewing for $16.50 a week. The models get. One of them says.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Well, she shows up to work, and Gibbs shows up at the lab, and Gibbs injects her with something, then turns on his machine. It flashes and pulses, and sure enough, she fades away.
And tickles. It
does,
yeah.
yes.
She giggles a lot while that's happening.
She giggles a lot throughout.
Yeah.
First thing she does is crawl out the window and head to Mr. Growley's place. Professor Gibbs comes in and can't find her. Maybe she fainted?
Yeah, looking everywhere.
He has to search everywhere for her.
And then the housekeeper says, "Oh yeah, she climbed out the window."
Meanwhile, that Growley...
Have you mentioned who the housekeeper is? You didn't mention who the housekeeper is.
No, I didn't. Not
yet.
The
Wicked Witch of the West. Yeah.
Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah. Without green makeup.
This came after the Wicked Witch of the West. Mm-hmm. She looks a lot more normal in this one.
Yes.
Although she's still a very peculiar-looking woman.
She is. Distinctive look, yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at Growley's office, he's firing more models. She puts on a dress and scares the customers, then goes on after Growley. Keep wanting to call him Crowley, but it's Growley because he growls.
Yeah.
She tears the place up in a very non-violent manner.
Tells him that she's his conscience come to haunt him, and he better shape up and stop being so mean. And
the next day, he's reformed.
Yeah, it works.
He's nice. He doesn't cheat the girls anymore, and he even gives Kitty the week off.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, a trio of gangsters show up at the newspaper wanting to know where the guy who placed the invisibility ad lives. That's my yeah. Yes,
Uh-huh.
The gangsters show up and want to become invisible too.
Well, no, they want the invisibility for the boss.
Well, initially they say they want it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Initially,
Kitty
the
runs
real
the
reason.
yeah. Kitty runs the gangsters off, and then she reappears. It shouldn't have worn off for another hour, but these things are hard to predict.
Mm-hmm.
There's some more straight-up comedy as Richard keeps missing his opportunity to see the invisible woman.
Yeah, he's sort of...
Look, she's invisible. She's not here.
It's a weird sort
She's
of
back.
romance.
The boss gangster, exiled to Mexico, now wants the machine so he can turn invisible so he can cross the border illegally.
And sneak back into the United States and not get arrested.
At
least right away.
There's a political joke in there somewhere. He tells his men to get that machine or don't come back. Kitty and the professor track down Richard out in the country. He's gone fishing. There's a funny scene where the professor tries to sneak the invisible woman past George the butler. However, something in the treatment makes her want to drink a lot of alcohol. She drinks a bunch and passes out, turning invisible again.
And there's a connection there.
Invisibility sure does make you thirsty.
Strong. Well, yeah.
And alcohol
it makes
extends
her crave,
the invisibility.
Yeah, she's craving alcohol, and when she becomes visible, if she drinks a bunch, she'll become invisible again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the gangsters break into the professor's lab and start disassembling his machine. They load it on a truck and take it to Mexico.
And surprisingly, that works.
It does.
They make it, right down the
They're
direction.
very careful about it.
Yeah, right down how you took it apart, and they get there and reassemble it.
Yeah.
Except
Because gangsters can do that.
there's a missing
Except
ingredient.
they don't know about the injection. They just take the machine.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning, Kitty is still invisible. The professor thinks the alcohol may have made her permanently invisible. He says that's no problem. He can fix it with the machine.
Except the machine's missing.
Well, he
now.
doesn't know that
He
yet.
doesn't know it yet.
The gangsters arrive in Mexico and unpack the machine. They must be really close to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The professor says without the injection, the machine could do strange things to people. One of the gangsters gets the machine, they turn it on, and his voice gets high. That's all. Just a squeaky voice.
Pretty tame as far as...
Yeah, I was expecting like The Fly or something, and he just comes, talking high.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Richard and Kitty start talking, and the professor comes in with a cure. As she starts to rematerialize, the professor gives her a stylish dress.
And it's not really a cure, actually. It's
he
alcohol.
thinks it is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an alcohol neutralizer.
Yeah.
It takes the alcohol out of her system.
As she comes down the stairs, ready for a glamorous happy ending, the gangsters break in, now demanding the formula too.
Mm-hmm.
Kitty now drinks some pure alcohol and becomes invisible again. This is like chemical alcohol. It's the strong stuff.
So she can take care of the thugs.
Yeah. She manages to trick and knock out all the gangsters, and they all escape, and some time passes. We fade away, happy ending. They come back. Richard and Kitty have had a baby that fades out when they rub him with alcohol. The professor exclaims, "It's hereditary!" The end.
They actually go to Mexico, where the yeah.
That's where the machine was.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you mentioned that.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
You like it?
It was funny overall. Yeah.
Definitely not horror. More so than most
Yeah.
of the other non-horror things that we've run across.
Lighthearted and funny, and I mean very dated in the humor and the relationship, the playboy pursuing the gal who's reluctant, and very very 1940s kind of romance, and the tropes of the way women were treated in 1940 and looked upon by men. And the butler, one of his stunts was especially impressive. He's not paying any attention. There's a 10-foot tall ladder set up next to the stairs, and he's not paying any attention. He trumps up the ladder, falls off head first
Does
off
little
a 10-foot.
spin.
Yeah, does a really impressive spin, and yeah.
And I think that was probably really him, not a stuntman too.
Yeah,
that
he was doing
impressive.
his own stunts. Yeah.
He falls down a lot.
Yeah, he's a goof. Yeah.
This is a comedy, and therefore there's no death, no murder, and even the gangsters
one.
all fall down and roll around a lot.
Yeah, even she doesn't actually kill the gangsters, just knocks them out.
There are a few mallets to the head, but it's done in a comedic style. There are a few genuinely funny moments, and this movie is completely child-friendly.
Pretty
Anybody
much.
could watch this.
Yeah, pretty tame.
Margaret Hamilton has a small role as Professor Gibbs' housekeeper, Jackson.
And she's a hoot.
Shemp Howard is one of the gangsters, but other than just getting a screen credit, he doesn't really do anything. He's not funny.
Yeah.
He only has a couple of words. He's just there.
Yeah.
It's like they owed him a movie or something, and yeah.
Maybe a contract thing. Yeah.
Charles Ruggles as George the butler is probably the funniest character in the movie and does a lot of his own stunts and falls down a lot. That's the butler.
Yeah, and he's got some of the funniest lines too.
The grumpy boss's name is, of course, Mr. Growly. It's cute, it's silly, and it's entertaining, but it's definitely not horror.
Yeah. And special effect wise, I noticed one detail that was neat. Toward the end, she falls into a fountain, and Richard jumps in after her thinking, oh, she needs rescuing, and it's like 3 feet deep. So then they're standing there, and there's a hole in the water where she's standing, which I thought was a really neat effect.
If you could picture what the water displacement would look like, you could see like
an
a
invisible
hole.
person standing in the water. Yeah.
They may have used a bowl or something sitting in the water. But yeah, it
it
worked.
was
It'll
really
look good.
Yeah, a really nice detail that looked really good. Yeah.
Not a lot of like rain or smoke effects like in The Invisible Man Returns last week.
No.
This was definitely a little less serious. Still very high budget, though. This is one of the most expensive films they put out that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not horror, but worth checking out. Yeah.
Yeah.